Shedeur Sanders hasn't taken a starting snap, but he's already sparked a franchise-wide reckoning. What began as routine quarterback uncertainty has turned into a full-scale rebellion inside the Cleveland Browns. When Jerry Jeudy and Myles Garrett, leaders on both sides of the ball, step forward to publicly defend a rookie, it's not just support, it's defiance. Stefanski's insistence on waiting.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Despite overwhelming endorsement from the locker room and mounting external pressure, has exposed a fragile power structure. The message from the players is clear. Sanders is ready. So why is the coach still holding back? Every day Stefanski waits. The team fractures a little more. This isn't about rushing a rookie. It's about trust, vision, and whether this regime is capable of evolving. The NFL doesn't wait for comfort, and neither do rival teams who are already circling. Cleveland has a rare opportunity in Sanders. Mishandle it, and the fallout could define more than just this season. It could redefine the Browns' trajectory for the next decade. The Cleveland Browns are collapsing from the inside out, and everyone can see it, except, apparently, the people responsible for stopping it. This isn't about growing pains or a learning curve. This is about a franchise that's been handed a potential franchise quarterback on a silver platter and is actively choosing to waste him, not because he's not ready, not because he hasn't earned it, but because one man, Kevin Stefanski, is too committed to a conservative script that no longer makes any sense. At the heart of this meltdown is Shedeur Sanders. He's not just some hyped rookie. He's not riding a media wave or selling false hope. He's earned every bit of the trust and praise coming his way, from his teammates, from the media, from national figures, and now, from a brand willing to invest 9 figures in his future. And still he sits. While other quarterbacks around the league with half the support and less than stellar track records get second and third chances, Sanders, backed by the locker room, praised by leadership and demanded by fans, is being shelved under the tired justification of inexperience. If this were about development, the conversation would be different. But it's not, because Jerry Jeudy didn't go to the media to talk about potential. He didn't say, give him a shot and let's see what happens. He said Shedeur deserved the job. He said the team trusts him. He called out the hesitation directly, framing it as a failure of recognition, not a question of timing. That kind of public support doesn't happen in the NFL unless something has already gone seriously wrong behind closed doors. You do not see players at that level risk their standing with the coaching staff unless the frustration has been brewing for a long time. Jeudy didn't break rank. He led a charge. Then came Myles Garrett, the defensive cornerstone, the guy who sets the tone for the other half of the team. He didn't just echo Jeudy's message. He reinforced it. Garrett praised Sanders' professionalism, dedication, maturity, things that go beyond raw talent, things that define leaders. And if he's saying it, you're no longer dealing with internal whispers. You're dealing with a movement. The Browns' locker room isn't fractured. It's aligned, just not with the head coach. And that is a very big problem. Because in professional sports, it's not the quarterback controversy that kills you. It's when your players no longer believe the people above them are listening. That's when the organization begins to rot from within. And when your most important players are publicly contradicting your head coach, there's no walking that back. This isn't Stefanski versus Sanders. It's Stefanski versus the locker room. Stefanski versus common sense. Stefanski versus every visible sign of who the team already follows and believes in. And somehow, he still won't move. He won't name Sanders the starter. He won't acknowledge the overwhelming support. He won't validate the work that's clearly been done behind the scenes. Instead, he falls back on that same tired reasoning. Youth inexperience, not quite ready. The problem with that argument is that it's already been dismantled by the people who know what readiness looks like. The players, the veterans, the leaders, the guys who go to battle every week and still say, this is our quarterback. It's gotten to the point where Stefanski's refusal to act isn't just cautious, it's reckless. Because this isn't just about one game or one decision. This is about everything that happens after, about the tone this sets for the rest of the season, about what kind of culture this team really wants to build. A team that talks about accountability and meritocracy can't afford to ignore the clearest example of both. And yet, that's exactly what's happening. And while Cleveland stalls, the vultures are circling. Rumors are picking up around the league, especially with the Las Vegas Raiders reportedly monitoring the situation. And why wouldn't they be? They're watching a young quarterback with a rare blend of poise, respect, and leadership being mismanaged by a team stuck in its own indecision. If Cleveland keeps dragging this out, Sanders becomes not just a potential starter for another team. He becomes a cautionary tale about what happens when a franchise lets fear override facts. What's worse is that the Browns are squandering their chance before the damage is irreversible. Shedeur hasn't asked out. He hasn't made this messy. He hasn't fueled the fire. He's stayed professional, steady, locked in. But the longer this goes, the more inevitable that breaking point becomes. Because no player wants to stay where they're not valued. No leader wants to follow someone who doesn't trust them. And no future face of a franchise should have to wait for permission to lead, especially when he's already proven he can. This is how you lose a locker room. This is how you lose a quarterback. And the consequences will not be small. If Sanders walks, or worse, gets traded and thrives elsewhere, it will haunt Cleveland for a generation. The narrative will write itself. They had the guy. He had the team behind him. And they let it rot because they didn't have the guts to change course. And let's not overlook the Nike deal. That $150 million contract, that's not just marketing. That's influence. That's a brand aligning itself with Sanders as a long-term investment. That means media attention. That means pressure. That means more people asking why Cleveland still hasn't done the obvious. It's one thing to fumble a quarterback. It's another to fumble a quarterback who just became a global face of the sport before he's even taken a regular season snap. Cleveland doesn't have time anymore. Every second they delay, they lose leverage. They lose trust. They lose the locker room. And eventually, they'll lose Shedeur. This isn't just about what happens this week or next. This is about what happens years from now, when people look back and say, that was the moment they blew it. The Browns have spent decades trying to find a quarterback to believe in. Now they've got one and they're frozen. There's no more debating readiness. No more hiding behind experience. No more pretending this is a neutral decision. It's not. This is sabotage. Plain and simple. And Kevin Stefanski is driving the bus straight off the cliff, while everyone in the back is yelling at him to stop. The locker room has already voted. The fans have already voted. The national media, they've already started the funeral procession. So what's it going to take? Another loss? Another headline? A team-wide implosion? Because if Stefanski waits for the perfect moment, it'll never come. And by the time he makes a switch, it'll look desperate, not decisive. Reactionary, not strategic. The only thing left to do, the only logical move left, is to start Shedeur Sanders. Right now, not later. Not after a few more reps. Not when the schedule softens. Now, anything else is malpractice. Let us know how you see it. Are the Browns already past the point of no return? Is Shedeur Sanders being wasted in plain sight? Drop your thoughts below, like if you're watching this in real-time disbelief. And subscribe if you want to keep tracking every second of this Browns meltdown as it unfolds. Because this isn't just a quarterback controversy anymore. It's a leadership failure, a cultural collapse, and the start of what could be Cleveland's most avoidable heartbreak yet. Let's keep going, because if the Cleveland Browns thought this would quietly blow over, they've completely misread the room. This isn't dying down. It's not fading into the background. It's growing, spreading, escalating. And the reason is painfully obvious. People don't get this angry when a coach benches a rookie. They get angry when a team ignores everything that matters, leadership, chemistry, trust, and still pretend it's just business as usual. It's not business as usual when your top wide receiver goes out his way to publicly back the rookie QB over the head coach. That's Jerry Jeudy putting a spotlight on the issue because the locker room already tried keeping internal, and clearly no one listened. It's not business as usual when your defensive captain, Myles Garrett, doubles down on that same stance, essentially confirming to the entire world that the locker room is unified behind Sanders. It's not business as usual when fans are flooding every Browns social feed with the same question: why isn't Shedeur starting? This has gone beyond a football decision. It's now a referendum on how the Browns operate. And based on the way this has been handled, the optics are getting worse by the hour. Because how do you justify keeping a player on the bench when he's already won over the team, when he's shown the leadership, when he's handled the pressure, when he's done everything asked of him, and then some? You can't. At this point, Stefanski's refusal to make the switch is less about development and more about denial. And in doing so, he's not just hurting Shedeur, he's hurting the entire team. Let's talk about morale. A locker room functions on belief. In each other, in leadership, in the plan. Once that belief is shaken, the whole thing starts to unravel. Quietly at first, then quickly. And it's already happening in Cleveland. You don't get public challenges from guys like Jeudy and Garrett unless trust has already eroded. These are not emotional outbursts. These are calculated moves. They're saying what everyone else is too cautious to admit. Stefanski is holding this team back. Now factor in the media storm. It's not just local press anymore. National coverage is hammering the Browns for their indecision. The narrative is already built. Sanders is ready, Stefanski is stubborn, and Cleveland is blowing it. And every game Sanders doesn't play makes that headline stronger. Then you've got the business angle. The Nike deal, $150 million. Let that number sit for a second. That's not just a brand partnership. That's a statement. That's Nike saying, this is a guy. Not 2 years from now. Not after a redshirt season. Right now. So now, every time Sanders is on the field, the Browns look foolish and outdated. They're not just resisting a locker room decision. They're resisting the cultural moment. They're clinging to an old-school model while the game, the media, and even corporate America have already moved on. And in that gap, that disconnect, that's where credibility dies. Meanwhile, the Raiders and other teams are watching this circus unfold, waiting, calculating, because if the Browns don't pull the trigger, someone else will. And if Shedeur Sanders ends up balling out somewhere else, how do you recover from that? You don't. You become the team that had him and wasted him. The team that choked on its own hesitation. The team that let its locker room fracture, while it clung to a system that clearly wasn't working. We've seen this movie before. Talented young players stuck behind coaching politics, only to be rescued by another franchise and turned into superstars. And every time, the original team is left making excuses about timing and development while their former player lights it up in prime time. If Cleveland doesn't act fast, that's exactly what's coming. Because here's the thing. Shedeur Sanders isn't just ready in the football sense. He's ready in every way. Maturity, presence, leadership. The players believe in him. The fans believe in him. And you don't get that kind of consensus without showing something real behind the scenes. There's no world where Jeudy and Garrett are backing a guy who isn't prepared. Their careers are on the line too. They're not going public unless they're certain. Which means the only person not convinced is Kevin Stefanski. And that puts the Browns in a lose-lose situation. If Stefanski doesn't make the switch, the team tunes him out. If he does make the switch too late, it looks like he caved. Either way, his leadership takes a hit. But here's the hard truth. Leadership should take a hit when it refuses to lead. This isn't just about giving Sanders a shot. It's about restoring order. It's about showing the locker room that effort and leadership actually mean something. That the guys speaking out won't be ignored. That this organization still knows how to listen to the right voices. Because if they don't, if the Browns keep playing this game of wait and see, they won't just lose Sanders. They'll lose Jeudy. They'll lose Garrett. They'll lose every shred of credibility they've worked to build over the last few seasons. It all goes out the window. And once a team loses that, once it becomes a place where players don't feel heard, don't feel valued, don't feel trusted, there's no fixing that midseason. There's no rally the troops speech that gets it back. That's the trajectory right now. And it's avoidable. All they have to do is what every player, fan, analyst, and brand partner is already screaming for. Start Shedeur Sanders. Let him lead. Let the locker room rally. Let the team breathe again. Because if they wait much longer, that window will slam shut. And when it does, the fallout won't be quiet. It'll be headlines. It'll be trade requests. It'll be the kind of collapse that sets a franchise back for years, not just on the field, but off it. This isn't a crisis because the Browns are losing games. It's a crisis because they're losing themselves. And if Stefanski doesn't figure that out soon, he won't just lose his quarterback. He'll lose his job. Because front offices can survive a bad record. What they can't survive is a fractured team, a failed culture, and a fan base that's seen this story too many times to keep pretending it's a one-off. Start Sanders now, or prepare for a meltdown that no PR spin can salvage. They're sitting on a locker room uprising, a media firestorm, and a once-in-a-generation opportunity with Shedeur Sanders. And somehow, they're acting like it's all just background noise. Like it's not that serious. Like a quarterback endorsed by your star wide receiver, backed by your defensive leader, and handpicked by fans and corporate sponsors isn't screaming for the starting role every time he walks into facility. It's denial, plain and simple. And the cost of that denial is going up every single day. What makes this worse, what makes it borderline reckless, is that this isn't just about performance. This is a situation where Sanders has been shaky in preseason, or struggling to grasp the offense. Every indication, every one, says the opposite. He's shown maturity, leadership, poise. Day after day, he's earned the locker room's respect. That's not up for debate anymore. So when Jerry Jeudy goes public and says what everyone else has been whispering, that's not drama. It's desperation. It's a veteran saying, "We've tried to play the game your way, coach, but it's not working." And when Myles Garrett, the heart of your defense and one of the most respected voices in the building, confirms that message, that's not a coincidence. That's a movement. At that point, it's not about whether Shedeur is ready. It's about whether leadership is willing to stop digging the hole they're standing in. Spoiler, so far they're not. Kevin Stefanski is still riding the experience excuse like it's a shield, still pushing the idea that time on the bench will somehow harden Sanders into a future star. But here's the problem with that logic. He already is one. You don't earn this kind of endorsement as a rookie unless you've already proven you're ready. You don't spark a public locker room campaign unless you've already done the work behind the scenes. And you definitely don't get a $150 million Nike deal without someone, many someones, believing you're about to become the guy. So now you've got Sanders watching his team crumble from the sidelines while the coach digs his heels and the locker room slowly pulls away from the staff. Let's be honest, this isn't sustainable. At some point, the players are going to stop talking. They're going to start acting. That trust between coach and locker room, it's hanging on by a thread. And once it snaps, you don't get it back with a quarterback switch. You don't get it back at all. The real question now isn't whether Shedeur should be starting. That answer's been clear for weeks. The real question is, how much damage will Browns allow before they finally wake up? Because right now, they're not just risking a few early season games. They're risking everything. They're risking Garrett walking away, Jeudy checking out, free agents crossing Cleveland off their list before the meeting even happens. And let's not even start with Sanders' future. Because if you're Shedeur right now, you're watching this franchise actively sabotage your opportunity. And you're taking notes. And when the day comes to re-sign, when another team picks up the phone and says, "We would have started you from day one," what's keeping him in Cleveland? Loyalty? That's already been tested. Trust? It's already been broken. The Browns are playing with fire, and they still think they're in control. Meanwhile, teams like the Raiders are lurking. And why wouldn't they be? They see what Cleveland has and what they're refusing to use. That's how quarterback controversies turn into blockbuster trades. That's how other franchises get smarter by watching you self-destruct. Cleveland has spent decades looking for a quarterback with leadership, charisma, talent, and buy-in. They finally get one, and they're benching him for, what? A vague idea of caution? It's not caution anymore. It's sabotage. And the players know it. And so do the fans. The reaction from Browns fans hasn't just been loud. It's been unified, which, if you've been around this fan base long enough, you know is rare. But there's no divide here. No one's confused. Everyone knows Sanders should be starting. Everyone knows Stefanski's playing politics instead of football. Everyone's tired of the excuses. And it's starting to spill over. The Browns' social media is flooded with comments demanding answers. National sports shows are roasting the coaching staff daily. The NFL world is watching the situation unfold like it's the league's newest car crash, and Cleveland's still behind the wheel, flooring it. At this point, even if Stefanski makes the switch, he's lost a narrative. The only way to recover now is by winning, and not just a few close games, decisive wins. The kind that change a conversation. The kind that make people forget how bad things were just a few weeks ago. But how do you get there without the guy the team already believes in? You don't. That's the real kicker. Stefanski's trying to preserve control by sidelining Sanders, but in doing so, he's losing control. The only way forward is through Sanders, not around him, not after him, not eventually, now, and the window is tight. If Cleveland waits much longer, they don't just risk their season, they risk their future. This isn't just a moment of indecision. It's a test. And every player in that locker room is watching how leadership handles it. They're not just watching for Shedeur's sake. They're watching for themselves. Because if they see that hard work, respect, and leadership don't mean anything here, they'll remember when it's contract time, when they're looking at other franchises, when the team starts slipping again, they'll remember. And so will the fans. This franchise has been through too much. Too many rebuilds. Too many false starts. Too many times where they almost had it right, until they blew it. And right now, they're about to do it again. Shedeur Sanders is the guy. Not because the media says so, not because Nike says so, but because the people who actually play with him say so. Because the people who sweat with him, fight with him, trust him in the huddle. They're the ones leading this campaign. And if that's not enough to make a coach listen, then maybe that coach shouldn't be the one leading this team. Let us know where you stand. Is Shedeur Sanders being wasted in Cleveland? Has Kevin Stefanski already lost a locker room? Should other teams be preparing trade packages right now? Drop your take in the comments, like if you're done with the excuses. And subscribe if you want the rest of this disaster documented in full. Because if the Browns don't move soon, it's going to get worse. Much worse. The team knows it. The league knows it. The fans know it. Only the coach doesn't.